The word kosh means a repository, a treasure, a kalanjiam. Kanchi Kosh is a repository of the history of Sri Kanchi Kamakoti peetam. The venerated peetam, established by Adi Shankara, who adorned it as the first Shankaracharya, has seen an unbroken lineage of 70 distinguished Pidadipadis in the last 2,500 years. A step into this exhibition will mesmerize and transform us. This treasure will help us seek divine intervention in our life in order to shield us from invisible complexities and adversities. With spiritual advancement, we can experience all-round perceptual changes in us. Indeed, this exhibition is a treasure. The Kanchi Kosh is a treasure. Shariram surupam tatava kalatram yasascharu chitram dhanam meru thulyam manaschena lagnam guru rangri padme tathakim 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 tathakim. This is a verse from the Guru Ashtagam by Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya. It says, one physic may be good, one's concert likewise, one's reputation resplendent and renowned, and one's riches as high as Mount Meru. Yet, if one's mind not be centered upon the lotus feet of the Guru, what then, what then? Tathakim, tathakim. Such is the greatness of Guru. They are the light in the dark, an inspiration and an aspiration. Once again, with humble citations to our Gurus of Sri Kanchi Kamakoti Peetam, I now call upon our Veda Vidyatis for the Vedic recitation. I request the audience to please stand up for the Vedic recitation.
पुण्यो भवति नमस्ते पुण्यो भवति भद्रं कर्णे विश्वभयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्ट्वागुंसस्तनोभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्षो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ
Sri Kanchi Mahaswami Trust took a significant step in 2010 towards regaining India's rich culture, heritage, and wealth of knowledge. Sri Kanchi Mahaswami Vidya Mandir is a bold experimentation to demonstrate that the study of Vedas and pursuit of secular education need not be in conflict. Its effort in this field of high endeavor is to teach our children the true meaning of education and help them understand that education is not merely a means to earn a living in order to survive, but much beyond that, to realize the purpose of human birth. The mentor for this bold experimentation is our respected chairman, Dr. V. Shankar. I humbly request, sir, to welcome the dignitaries and the audience.
गोविंद देशिकम उपास्य शिराय भक्त्याम तस्मिन् स्थिते निजमाहिं निविदेह मुक्त्याम अद्वैत्य भाष्यम उपकल्प दिशो विजीत्याम कांचीपुरे स्थितम अवापसा शंकराय ऋतिश्रुति पुराणानाम आलयम करुणालयम नमामि भगवत्पाद शंकरम लोकशंकरम अपार करुणा सिंधुम ज्ञानतम शांतरूपिणम श्रीचंद्रशेखर गुरुम प्रणमामि मुदांहम सदाशिव समारंभाम शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम अस्मदाचार्य पर्यंताम वंदे गुरु परंपराम. Seeking the benediction of Adi Shankaracharya and to his lineage up to the 70th Guru, the venerated Kamakoti peetam, Puja Sri Shankar Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal, I bow to them as I commence my address today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all.
My most respectful pranam to Jagat Guru Shankaracharya, Puja Sri Shankar Vijayendra Saraswati Swamigal, Dr. V. Shankar is the spirit and the driving force behind all that we are seeing here and beyond in all parts of the country under the aegis of Sri Kanchi Mahaswami Trust. Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, one of the greatest scientists of the age and the architect of our national education policy, which is being talked about every day. Distinguished invitees, functionaries of Kanchi Kamakoti Math, teachers, students of Sri Kanchi Mahaswami Vidya Mandir, gracious ladies and gentlemen, namaskaram to all of you. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Shankar for giving me this opportunity to visit this place. It's beautiful, it's vibrant, and honestly, I feel overwhelmed by the fact that here, in the midst of all this chaos that we see, we have a center where our Vedic studies as well as the modern studies are being done in an integral fashion. Here I feel I am in our country, Bharat. You know, India is not an appropriate description of this country. The term India, it's soulless. It's a term, it's a name given by others. Before the advent of the foreigners, people of this land, they didn't call it India. It was Bharat Varsha. And this Bharat Varsha is not the creation of any king, any ruler. It was built by our rishis, our sages, since the time of Rig Veda, when our rishis got the revelation of the fundamental knowledge of creation. That is what is called Rita Siddhant. There is one creator and there is unity of creation. Entire creation, despite its mind-boggling diversities, are all integrally connected and it's permeated by that creator. So the unity, one creator and oneness of creation. This is a very pithy revelation. And that is where our rishis started praying for the well-being of all the creatures. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Sarve bhavantu, it's not just humans. All beings, let all beings be happy. Let all beings be free of disease. Let everyone see goodness in each other. Now with this awareness, this light, it has spread through the length and breadth of this land. North to south, what our Vishnu Puran says, Uttaram yat samudrasya, Himadrasya dakshinam, Varsham tad bharatam nama, Bharati yatra santati. North of ocean and south of Himalayas is the land called Bharat. Bharat because it is an enlightened land. Bha is a Sanskrit word, root for light. The one land which is enwrapped in this light, this one creator and oneness of creation, all are part of that. Whether we are moving or non-moving, Vanaspati or other creation. Its children are Bharati. So this is Bharat. Even Bhagavad Gita, the book, the holy book given to me by Dr. Sankara, I am thankful to him. You know, as a primary student, when I was a class 5 student, my father made me memorize all the 700 slokas of Gita. So without understanding the meaning of it, I memorized it. Later on, I started getting the meaning, and still I am searching the meaning. Every time I feel a new revelation, a new light. And there also it says in the 18th chapter, Avibhakto vidakteshu tad jnano vidhi satvikam. One who sees the indivisible in the divided. That is the true knowledge. Again, the same unity of creation. And that is how this country, this Bharatvarsh was created. It is not many people that try to understand and ask questions. Who was the king who ruled the entire country? No. This country was not built by any king, was not built by any ruler, it was built by our rishis. And that is the message, the lesson. Since the Vedas, Vedic period, it started and engulfed the entire region. Go anywhere, Kanyakumari to Kashmir to Kamrup to Kutch. It is there in our everyday rites and rituals. Bharat Varsha lives in us in our all the rites and rituals. every occasion, auspicious occasion that we do, from the birth to death to building a house to marriage, every time when we worship the five elements, Panchbhuta, the two of them which was territorial, earth and water, Bharatvarsh come in that. When we worship the water, it is Ganga, right from Kaveri to Sindhu. Ganga cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Sindhu Kaveri Jale Yasmin Sannidhim Kuru. This is Bharatvarsh. Every drop of water concludes all. When we praise the Bhumi, the place, this place is not in isolation, it's a part of Bharatvarsh. Again there, it comes Bharatvarsh. So this Bharatvarsh, this has been kept, built by the rishis and kept by the rishis. And in that tradition, our Adi Shankaracharya and subsequent Shankaracharya came and built this. Imagine, mind-boggling, from north to south. Imagine where Kedar, Badri, all this Kashmir, so remote areas. Today, for people with all these means of communication, people find it difficult, but our rishis traveled and built this country. Unfortunately, this foreign invasions and colonization, it played havoc with our life. People often say this knowledge is a spiritual knowledge. After all, what is you need to have the modern knowledge? Yes. One needs to go back. At the time when the British began colonization of this country, our economy was the largest economy in the world. In the decades of 1750, the decade when the British began colonization, industrial production of India and China together were 73%, and India was 40% of that. America and Europe nowhere existed. In terms of education, in terms of industry, in terms of agriculture, we were a glorious country. Coming of the Europeans and colonization, they systematically destroyed. They destroyed the education system. They actually waged a three-pronged battle to destroy India and India's cultural and spirituality. Ideological, theological, and military. On all the three fronts, militarily they came and they had the gunpowder, and they came and physically controlled. Took over the lands of all the assets which sustained the community institutions, like temples and institutions related to the temples. Ideologically they created false history of India. In fact, when the British began colonizing this country, at the time the dilemma that they had was, how should they run the colony? And when at the time Lord Clive, who first took over Bengal from Sirajuddaula, when he wrote to the company headquarters, the East India Company headquarters, saying that, look, they were a trading company, they didn't know how to administer. Governing a territory was not their job, it was not their, they didn't know it. And so they wanted their governance to be taken over by the British government. And then the British government, craftily, they adopted a policy. In fact, these are all matter of record. Adam Ferguson, the professor of theology and advisor to the British government on colonial affairs, he was a professor in Edinburgh University. He gave a detailed advice that this country, India, your British colonial experiment of North America, what they did, where they killed the locals, indigenous people, and populated them transported the population. This was not possible to replicate in India because India was highly evolved in all aspects of evolution. It was not possible to annihilate the population. It was not possible to replicate the experiment that they had in North America. And so the decision was that they must transfer as much wealth as possible, as speedily as possible from India to UK. And for that, their main job was how to make the empire durable as long as possible. And so they thought, you must first kill the education system. You must instill a sense of inferiority among the people who were the most advanced in the world. And one by one, this began. And one of the first things that they did, they wrote a fabricated history of India, written by James Mill, father of John Stuart Mill. Those of students, those who study political science have heard his name, John Stuart Mill. His father was James Mill. He was commissioned, this man did not visit India, but he was commissioned by the company to write a concocted history of India in a way that makes everything in India ugly and inferior. He wrote 5 volumes of history of British India. And those books became the textbook for all the British officials, those who came to administer India. They had to pass tests. So they read everything bad about India. Not bad about, but they made everything projected as bad. It's a highly scurrilous work. It's a very derogatory work. And those books were prescribed later in our text, in India's colleges and universities. Our students started learning. They killed the education system. They killed the industry. They killed. Theological battle, because they said this India's spirituality is so evolved, it won't let you continue for long. So they, through an act of parliament, India Charter Act 1813, it is an act of British Parliament. Under this act, they said, religious and moral redemption of India is the mandate of the British government. That is, they must spread the gospel. Indians, because those who did not have the gospel, they were in dark ages. So they must spread the gospel and kill the indigenous spirituality. Karl Marx at those days, he was in New York. He was commissioned by the company. Usually it is considered that Marx was against imperialism. He might have been, but he was a great supporter of the British imperialism in India. In 1852, he wrote a number of articles, essays in New York Daily Tribune in August 1852. There, one of the first things he said, the British Empire has 2 duties, 2 responsibilities in India. Number 1, they must totally annihilate India's social order. They must totally annihilate India's social order, because a society that worships cows and monkeys has no business to survive. That was his logic. Because Indians, they worship cows and worship Lord Hanuman. So he says, no, it must be annihilated. And then lay the foundation of Western material civilization. Because he believed that everything was matter. Humans were removing hydrocarbons. So it was a mix of Marxist intellectual backup, fabricated British intellectuals and scholarship, the theological forces, and of course the British military might. So it was a threefold battle that kept destroying India's economy, agriculture, and most importantly, education system and its cultural spirituality. Thanks to institutions like Kanchi peetam and Parampara of Jagat Guru Shankaracharya, that we have retained this. With all these adversities, with all these challenges, the fact that we have our Sanatana Adhyatma, Sanatana Dharma, is a miracle. It shows the inherent power of its knowledge, the Veda, and the institutions which carried it. Unfortunately, after the British left, we continued with the colonial education policy. British policy was to create people who are intellectually indoctrinated to be subordinate to the inferior to the British European and fit for doing their job and employment. A servant of the company, a servant of the empire, and subsequently post-British employers and servant of the government. That is the system of education that they had created and which continued even after the British left. We didn't change it. Unfortunately, people who ruled this country after the British left, they looked upon this country from the angle of India, from the eyes of India, not through the eyes of Bharatvarsha. And fortunately today, in the last about 8 years, the country is doing the course correction. Country is looking at itself as Bharat, country as Bharatvarsha. And what is Bharatvarsha? It is a parivar, it is a kutumbam. This regional, look at this country with so much of diversities. Diversities of languages, diversities of regions, diversity of cuisine, and diversity of apparent culture. But underlying all these diversities, there is one strong binding force. That binding force is our Sanatan Sanskriti and Sanatan Adhyatma. Go to any part of the country, and I had the fortune of moving in the tribal areas of the northeastern part. People call them tribals, the backward people, those who have no connect with civilizations. Bordering Tibet, you have tribes, Idu Mishmi. They believe that Rukmini was their daughter. Lord Krishna married her. There are folk tales, folklores among that tribe. You go to the Karbis, Divasas, all the tribes, they have their own Ramayana, they have a story of Sri Rama. It is these heroes, these icons, their stories, their life lessons that bound this country together. Kanchi, in about 5th century, a Pallava prince from Kanchi goes to Nalanda. Nalanda was a vibrant center of education. People call it a Buddhist center of education. That's not the correct. Because at the time, Buddhism was an interpretation of our Sanatana Dharma. It was a way of looking at it. It was another way because of a lot of, because of Jagyas, there used to be a lot of killing of creatures. It was against that. That is how the Jain and Buddha Sampradaya came. So Nagarjuna, the greatest of all Acharya of Nalanda, himself was a Hindu, was a Sanatan Dharmi. Vasubandhu, who came from Gandhar, which is those days Gandhar, today's Peshawar, he came to that place, Nalanda, to study. Buddhism was a philosophy, a way of interpretation. It was during those days that the Pallava prince came to Nalanda. He studied, became an Acharya, became Bodhi Dharma. He came back and through Shi route he went to China, and he was the one who introduced Buddhism in China. It went from Kanchi. I read a story of Mahapurush Shankar Dev of Assam. 700 years ago, in the 15th century. At the age of 30, he came to this land. He came to Rameshwaram, he came to Kanchi. He studied. From here he went to Kashi. He studied there for a longer period, went back to Kamrup, and the first poem that he composed was Dhanya Dhanya Bharat Bhumi. It was a seamless. There were multiple kings, there were multiple rulers, but people were one. There was no restriction, there was no barrier in the movement of people from one end to the other for education, for pilgrimage, for trade, or even for settling down. People were one. So India has, this Bharat cannot be understood in terms of India. This was our land, this was Bharat. Now when the present Prime Minister says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, it is Sanatan Adhyatma. This is one Kutumbam, one Parivar. It is not a political slogan. Many people who are still tuned to the old way of politics and all, they find it difficult to understand. They have a difficulty in understanding what this person is talking about. What he is talking about is nothing new. It is what Bharatvarsh has been all about. So this rebuilding of Bharat, this resurgence of Bharat, multi-dimensional resurgence of Bharat is happening and we can feel it. And in this, a very significant and I suppose the most significant role is that of our national education policy, architect of which is Dr. Kasturi Rangan. Dr. Shankar mentioned about education combining modernity and tradition. In our ancient system, it was there. Today, when they talk about, as if you were talking some magical thing, something, you are trying to bring the two things which are incompatible. Tradition in our ancient system, in our ancient literature, since then, all through till the colonization, tradition has never been a resistance to change. Tradition has been dynamic, it has changed from time to time. And it has been changed by our rishis, our sages, our scholars. And the philosophy of our education used to be Adrata Saklam Sastram Prishtata Sasradhanu. You are ahead in all the sastras, all the knowledge, and still you are carrying Prishtata Sasradhanu. Strong. We have to build this country. So the integral education, where our Sanatan Gyan Parampara is introduced, is fused with the modern technology. It's because, since our ancient time, since the time of Vedas, we never believed in the sovereignty of intellect. Adi Bhautik Buddhi was always considered as a limited way, because unless it is mixed with Adhyatma, it doesn't become complete. The fusion of Adhyatma and Adi Bhautik Buddhi is what our rishis, our scriptures prescribed, they recommended, and that is what has been going on all through till the colonization happened and we lost tradition. Now this awareness, unfortunately, we have lost it, now we are regaining it, and here, institution like this is playing a very great role. When we see the young students of Vedic Pathsala who are being taught and trained into the Vedic knowledge as they grow, equipped with this and then equipped with the modern technology, modern science, they will be the ideal citizen of Bharat. This is what we need. And now that we have entered the Amrit Kal. This is the 75th year of, 75 years of our Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And when we are celebrating the 75 years of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, I would like to urge that while we are celebrating the people who fought the British colonials, those who their military power, those who fought them, those who rebelled against them, we are remembering them, we are commemorating them, and we must. But those who preserved against this mighty onslaught of the British, our spiritual and cultural heritage, they are no less a Swatantrata Senani or Swatantrata Veer. And we need to celebrate them and their contribution. All these people have ensured that Bharat is kept alive. Howsoever weak it might be during the colonial period, it must be alive. Its heart must be beating, and mind must be active in whatsoever small number it may be, but they have retained it. So they are also, in the 75 years of our Azadi Ka Amrit also, we need to celebrate all our rishis, all our scholars, those who have kept the tradition alive during the colonial period. And our Mahaswami, he was here for during the most critical time. Most critical time when the British were at full throttle trying to destroy. It was at that time. Imagine how difficult it must have been for him. But he retained, he kept it alive with all the adversities. We must remember, we must be grateful, we must pay homage to them. Now we have entered the Amrit Kaal of 25 years. In this next 25 years, we have to build this nation as a world leader. We have a goal, we have a task. Now the country is moving forward with a newfound confidence never before. All inclusive, no citizen is left out. All inclusive Bharat has to grow as the world leader. And we have shown the leadership in the recent years. When the pandemic hit the world, the country which helped the most of the humanity was this Bharat. Thanks to our scientists who discovered, who invented the vaccine, we shared the vaccine with over 150 people of 150 countries of the world. When the rich countries, when they discovered their vaccine, they started working out the prices, how to make maximum money out of it. Whereas Bharat gave those vaccines free of cost to more than 150 countries. This is our Sanatana Adhyatma, this is our Sanatana Dharma. When another global crisis, that is a climate crisis, which the world is facing, we took the initiative under the leadership of Prime Minister when we said, okay, we must move from carbon energy to clean energy. India is a poor country, resource poor. It was very difficult task because for any growth, there. Sun God is there to give us so much of energy. We need to use that. We don't need any other energy. And when all the countries of the world have joined this. When Prime Minister set the target that by 2025 India will have 100 gigawatts, it was just not possible. And we have achieved it in September 2021, way ahead of our time. And now the next 2030, we will have 500 gigawatt of clean energy. This is to save the climate, because for us, Earth is not just a resource. Earth is our mother. Prithvi is mother. And you cannot treat your mother as a resource. This is what Abrahamic religion did. Anthropocentric view of life. Man is at the creation of the universe, and rest everything is for the pleasure of man. No. Here in our Sanatana Dharma or Sanatana Dharma, we are an integral element of the entire creation. We have no better claim. And so the Mother Earth has to be preserved, has to be respected. So when we talk about climate preservation, when we talk about clean energy, it is not just an existential imperative, it is, but it is also out of our inherent belief that Earth is our mother and we must protect, we must respect it. So this now in the next 25 years we have a target to achieve, and I'm sure we will achieve it. There is no doubt about it. The country has woken up, is moving forward. It is unstoppable. It is unstoppable because our youth, their energy, we are unleashing their energy. We are just trying to harness that energy. In this journey, this institution is playing a great role. And I wish Dr. Sankar and his entire team all the best. All the very best with the blessings of Mahaswami wherever he is and the present Jagat Guru. I'm sure this country will rise to its destiny. Friends, I'm delighted truly to be here, to be with you. It is a memorable day and memorable moment for me. Thank you very much. London.
Thank you, sir. The power of your speech. Standing ovation of few of them. You took us through the timeline of the country and enlightened us with its richness. In Bharat, a land built by our rishis, and none of us here feel privileged to be in this punya. How proud we are to hear from you that we stood up high in this testing time, and our gurus played a key role in this. Inspired by the philosophy of His Holiness Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swamigal, the Vidya Mandir has a single-minded education goal: to prepare its students to stand head and shoulder above the rest, ingraining in them high moral values through Vedic education, combined with modern thinking and education, to provide sound physical training and enable them to develop an ability to nurture creativity. Leading the TT team now this film is our beloved principal, Srimati Hemalata. I now request ma'am to propose the vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries, esteemed guests, parents, and my dear students. My humble pranams to Almighty and all our great gurus. It is my proud privilege to propose word of thanks for the most prestigious event, Kanchi Kosh inauguration ceremony. On behalf of Sri Kanchi Mahaswami Vidya Mandir, I express my sincere gratitude to Thiru R. Ravi, Honorable Garner, for his kind presence and very inspiring speech. Thank you so much, sir. Especially that incredible features and qualities of our country. And also, his sir has added, Earth is not a source, it's our mother. Something amazing, sir. Thank you so much. Your thoughts have truly inspired us. Now it's time to thank the First Lady of the State, Madam Srimati Lakshmi Ravi. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. It adds value to this program. It's a great honor for all of us at Vidya Mandir to have Dr. Bhatma Vibhushan, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, sir. architect of NEP, former chairman of ISRO, former chairman of National Education Policy Committee, and chairman of National Steering Committee for National Curriculum Framework. Thank you so much, sir, for your mind-blowing speech, especially on the part of NEP.